Okay, so let's see how to carve a permanent mandibular first molar. As we can see, this is a model of a permanent mandibular first molar, and this tooth has 5 proper functional cusps. If we see, there are 3 cusps on the buccal side and 2 cusps on the lingual side. The 5 cusps are mesiobuccal cusp, distobuccal cusp, and the distal cusp. So there are 3 cusps on the buccal side and there are 2 cusps, mesiolingual cusp, distolingual cusp on the lingual side. So total we have 5 functional cusps. On the maxillary molar we also had 5, but the 5th cusp was rudimentary, isn't it? It was a small tiny cusp on the mesiolingual cusp, which we called as the cusp of Carabelli. One most important point is mandibular molars always have mesiodistal dimension greater than the buccolingual dimension. Maxillary molar, opposite was true. Their buccolingual dimension was always greater than the mesiolingual dimension. That's an important point. So when we talk about these 5 functional cusps, if we notice, if I hold the tooth from the buccal aspect, I can see all the 5 cusps, 3 buccal cusp and also the 2 lingual cusp. The reason is the buccal cusps are a little shorter and blunter when compared to the lingual cusps. Lingual cusps are slightly at a higher level and they are a bit sharper when compared to the buccal cusp. So if I see the tooth from the lingual aspect, okay, it's difficult to see the buccal cusp because the lingual cusps are at a higher level and sharper when compared to the buccal cusps. So we cannot see the buccal cusp from the lingual side, but we can see all the 5 cusps when I hold it from the buccal side. Now that should be there. More importantly, on the buccal side we have 3 different cusps: mesiobuccal, distobuccal and the distal cusp. There is a groove on the buccal side that separates the mesiobuccal cusp from the distobuccal cusp, and that's called mesiobuccal groove. It travels to about half the distance of the entire surface. There's one more groove on the buccal side that divides the tooth here on the buccal side. You can see that the distobuccal cusp and the distal cusp are getting separated by this groove here. So on the buccal side we have 2 well developed grooves separating the 3 cusps. On the other hand, if we see on the lingual side, we have one groove only that separates the mesiolingual cusp and the distolingual cusp. Okay, and if you notice, the lingual side the cusps appear a bit larger simply because there are only 2 cusps. On the buccal side we have mesiobuccal, the biggest, distobuccal and then the distal cusp. Distal cusp is the smallest cusp when compared to all 5 cusps. And if you notice, this central groove is in a zigzag fashion, isn't it? So there is this central groove appearing zigzag because all the triangular ridges join in the central groove in that fashion. We can see there are 5 triangular ridges, one each from each cusp: mesiobuccal cusp triangular ridge, distobuccal cusp triangular ridge, distal cusp, mesiolingual cusp, distolingual cusp. We also have a well developed marginal ridge, mesial marginal ridge and a distal marginal ridge, and corresponding triangular fossas. This is the distal triangular fossa and this is the mesial triangular fossae. So like that we have 2 fossae, minor fossae, and the central fossa is the major fossa. So all these things should be there. One more important point if I see from the occlusal aspect is the tooth converges distally. If you see this, the tooth is wider labiolingually on the mesial side than when I measure here. So the tooth is converging distally as well as lingually. So the tooth converges lingually like all other tooth. Additionally, the tooth also converges distally. So what we need to do is, while carving on the distal side, you see how the concavity here, the tooth is You see this concavity on the distal side? It's much narrower. The occlusal table is much narrower, isn't it? So that convergence should be seen. So these are the essential features of mandibular permanent first molar. Okay, now let's see the carving steps that are involved in getting a permanent mandibular first molar. We understood the features, let's carve it. Now let's use this wax block. I've already made it uniform. You can check the block for any air bubbles or air voids. If it is there, please change the block. If not, continue. Now the most important is establishing the crest of contour, just like how we did for a maxillary molar. Before we do the crest of curvature, let's measure the dimension for the crown. The crown is 8 millimeters, so I'll take around 8 millimeters. A little bit more is okay since we always reduce later, but if you make it smaller, it's difficult. So I have marked 8 millimeters, so you can take 8 millimeters or maybe 8.5. So I'm marking 8 millimeters. I'm extending the same on the other four sides. You are advised to measure on all four sides and just mark your sides like how we have been doing. So we have 8 millimeters, and then so I'm going to mark the sides. So this will be my buccal side. Opposite of that will be my lingual side. So this probably will be my mesial, and the opposite of that will be distal. So I have marked the sides. So let's take buccal side. Now buccal side, we have this is the crown part, this is the root part. So I'm going to divide this crown part into 3 equal thirds like what we have been doing. Similarly, extend that on all four surfaces. I'm going to just extend 3 equal thirds all four surfaces. Again, I'm facing the buccal side, and then I'm going to draw the midline. So this will be my line of the tooth. Midline will help to make sure our dimensions are right. Okay, so we all know the establishing the crest of contour is important, as I told you, for molars. Now let me talk about the crest of contour. The crest of contour on the lower molars and upper molars are the same. If you look at the crest of contours on the buccal side, the crest of contour or the height of curvature lies within the cervical 1/3, the buccal bulge. That's what we call. Buccally, the tooth is bulging. Look at this tooth model here. This is the buccal side. Look where the crest of curvature is. Crest of curvature is within the cervical 1/3. We need to establish that. The highest point is in the cervical 1/3. On the lingual side, the highest point is in the middle of middle 1/3. Exactly same as like what we had in our maxillary molar. Buccal side, cervical area. Lingual side, middle of middle 1/3. Similarly, distal side, again it's at the middle of the middle 1/3. Distally, it's the middle of middle 1/3, just like lingual side. Whereas the mesial side, it lies at the junction of occlusal and the middle 1/3. Same like what we did for maxillary molar. So that for crest of curvature, we need to establish that. So first I'll do that on the buccal side. I'll just establish the crest of curvature. Just make sure you want to remove some wax in the cervical area. Establish the crest of curvature on the buccal side. Now let's move. Once I'm done and happy with the buccal crest of curvature, just go and check on the lingual side. So lingual side, it is the middle of the middle 1/3. So here, so you can draw the line and then remove a layer of wax on either side of that line. You all have been doing this carving, establishing the crest of curvature for maxillary molar, exactly same as that for mandibular molars as well. So just remove the wax and make sure you have this crest of curvature established. So I'm making sure that it is in the middle of the middle 1/3 for the lingual side. It is middle of the middle 1/3, whereas for the buccal side it was in the cervical area. As you do, make sure the surfaces are smooth and even and don't create any concavities. You see the crest of curvature? You can see the curve, and the highest point on the curve is middle of middle 1/3. Similarly, if I see the buccal side, the crest of curvature is here. You can make it more smoother. Similarly, on the mesial side, it is at the junction of incisal or occlusal 1/3 and the middle 1/3. So I'm going to remove some wax here. Make sure you create the crest of curvature at the right areas. You do that, your half job is done. Establishing the crest of curvature is very important. You do that properly, your entire carving looks good. So I am removing more wax from the junction here. So one surface is remaining, that is the distal, and again the distal is middle of the middle 1/3. You can draw that line and then remove some wax in that region. Okay, now I'm happy with my crest of curvature. Let me just brush it off, polish it. So let's observe. So this is the buccal surface. So the crest of curvature is in the cervical area. Distally, it's in the middle of middle 1/3. Lingually, again, it's in the middle of the middle 1/3. And on the mesial side, it is at the junction. So we have the established crest of curvature. Now, if you look from the occlusal aspect, it's looking more like a square, isn't it? It's exactly like a square. But mandibular molars are not square. If you notice this, it's a rectangular surface, rectangular side. And as the rectangle moves towards distal side, the tooth is converges. That means the tooth is narrower on the distal side when compared to the tooth on the mesial side. So if we take a block, so this is buccal side, this is lingual side, this is mesial side, and this is distal side. So that means as the tooth goes distally, okay, it should converge. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to mesial, distal. So we need to draw a line randomly, approximately about 1 millimeter. See how the tooth is converging. See, I just drew line, slanting line. This is distal, remember, this is mesial, and you see how the tooth is converging distally. Okay, so this is narrower on the distal side, broader on the mesial side. So that needs to be established. Now, keeping the crest of curvature in place, make sure you don't change that too much, but at the same time we need to remove the wax from the lines what we have drawn here. Just make sure you remove the wax. So while doing that, make sure you don't spoil or damage the crest of curvature. It has to be maintained throughout. So remove layer by layer. Don't have to touch much on the mesial side, it's more on the distal side. Distally the tooth is converging, so just remove on the distal side. If you notice, I'm not handling too much on the distal mesial side, distally I am removing. You see this line? It's reaching the line, right? So make sure I remove on the mesial side. It's called distal convergence. The tooth converges distally. See this? You see the convergence happening here? On the mesial side it is wider, on the distal side it started to converge. Same thing we have to do on the lingual side as well. Okay, so lingually we have already drawn the line, so just remove the wax. Again, make sure you don't remove excess, maintain the crest of curvature like what you had done before. So lingually and distally the tooth converges. So basically distal side the tooth should be narrow, mesial side tooth should be broader. Just make sure that, and while doing that make sure your crest of curvatures are not disturbed. Maintain the crest of curvatures and your tooth should be rectangular with the distal convergence. That should be your end goal. After this step, the tooth should look rectangular and it should be converging. Look at this. Now we have this beautiful rectangular shape here. This is distal. How do I know? Because it is converging, isn't it? The tooth converges distally. So this is distal. I'm holding in this direction. You might be confused. So this is mesial. This is distal. This surface is buccal. And this surface is lingual. I repeat, mesial, look, it's broader. Distal, it's narrower. Lingual and buccal. Sorry, the sides are reversed here. So this is distal. See, the tooth is converging distal side. Okay, or we can change the sides if you want. You can label it other way. Okay, if you want me to do that, I can do that. You see this? Distal side is converging. Okay, mesial side is broader. So the basic step is done. Now the most important thing is we need to establish 3 cusps here, buccal side, and 2 cusps here on the lingual side for this tooth. Okay, so that's what we'll do that. So how to do that is, before we do, okay, maybe just to avoid confusion, probably I'll change the sides so that you all can follow with the model. So lingual now becomes buccal. I hope I'm clear, I'm not confusing you. Just to follow with the model, I'm changing my lingual side to buccal side, and the previous buccal side now becomes lingual side, so that we can follow the model and you don't get confused. Okay, I repeat, buccal, lingual, mesial and distal. Okay, similar to what we have the model here, buccal, distal, mesial and lingual. Okay, so we do that. Okay, let's see how we carve the occlusal morphology. Most importantly, first and foremost, let's create this concavity. You see this? There's a concavity on the distal side, isn't it? This is the buccal surface, the outline. Okay, so if you trace it, it's coming, and suddenly there's a faint concavity, and that concavity is the area which separates the distobuccal cusp from the distal cusp, isn't it? So how to create that concavity? On the buccal side, okay, as you have this convergence here, that region somewhere here, if you want me to draw the line, see this? I hope it's clear. Somewhere there we need to create a concavity. Use this part of the carver and you kind of create a concavity. A gentle firm pressure should do the job. Again, make sure don't change the crest of curvature too much. Okay, you notice a faint concavity there. Use the polishing cloth, make sure it's smooth and uniform so that it's clear, you can see the features properly. Okay, you see this, a faint concavity. Don't overdo it. If you overdo it, your carving might look a little spoiled, so just make sure you don't overdo it. If you keenly notice, it's just a faint concavity as it goes towards the distal side. Okay, so we can round off a little bit of these line angles here on the mesial side. It's a bit squarish looking now, so slightly rounding off the line angles on the mesial side. Okay, so you see this? Okay, you see the concavity there, fine. You see the concavity there. Okay, now we do the cuspal outline. So before we do the cuspal outline, maybe we just give a small cut on all four surfaces. That helps establishing the cuspal contours or morphology. Just a faint cut. You see this? Just I moved my carver on all four surfaces. I hope it's clear. Okay, now the only thing remaining is establishing the cuspal morphology, and then rounding off, your carving will be ready. So let's do this along with the model. You see, is it looking like that? Roughly, yes. Okay, the shape. Now we need to establish these cusps: mesiobuccal, distobuccal, distal, mesiolingual, distolingual, mesial marginal ridge, distal marginal ridge. Okay, for that let's do this central groove first, and then we divide these cuspal morphology. So first and foremost, as we can see, there's a carved tooth here. I'll show you here. You see this tooth? 5 different cusps, very neatly done here. Mesiobuccal, distobuccal, distal, mesiolingual and distolingual. You see this? 5 cusps. If I see from the lingual side, I don't see buccal cusps. it's difficult to see, it's higher, whereas if I see from the buccal side, I can see all the 5 cusps. Okay, of course we are not doing the root, so don't worry about that. We're just confined to doing the crown portion. So distally the tooth is converging, it's wider mesially, distally narrower. So that will do. So for that you need to do a central groove first. So I'll draw a central line. So once I draw the central line, you cut a V cut in the central line. You give a V cut. Don't make it very deep, about 0.5 millimeter should be good enough. So this is your central groove, an indication towards your central groove, of course. And then divide your buccal side into 3 parts. So I would say divide about 40 to 45%, approximately that much for your mesiobuccal, because that's your biggest cusp. So I'm going to take this much line, and distobuccal, the next small cusp, and a little bit area for distal cusp. I would even take this. Okay, so divide your buccal side major into mesiobuccal, next distobuccal, and your distal. Okay, don't worry about distal cusp. Distal cusp occupies a position such that it's little bit on the distal side as well. It is little bit on the distal side and also the buccal side. So it's on the distobuccal surface, not entirely on the buccal surface. The tooth, as it goes towards the distal side, it occupies that position, not completely on the buccal surface, a little bit on the distal side. But if you look on the lingual side we take half, because there are only 2 cusps. So we have now 5 cusps, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So we need to establish that. So let's start from the mesiobuccal cusp. So again, using this part of the carver, just like how we did for maxillary molars. So just remove the wax, give the cuspal morphology. See that? So we have 2 cusps now, mesiobuccal, distobuccal. We can go on to do on the lingual side. Distolingual. Okay, so we have this mesiobuccal cusp. Establish the cuspal morphology. clean the occlusion surface. Okay, so once we do that, we need to establish the grooves on the buccal side. So there are two grooves on the buccal side. One groove that separates the mesiobuccal from distobuccal, and groove that separates the distobuccal from the distal cusp. So do the groove, not just drawing the line, there should be an indentation, concavity there. Similarly, one groove on the lingual side, it separates the lingual cusps into two parts. So make sure you have the concavity, groove, not just a line. Well developed groove on the lingual side, separating the mesiolingual from the distolingual cusp. Polish the surface, make sure it's rounded. Make sure your marginal edges are intact. Round off the line angles. Make sure you have 5 cusps. Distally it is converging. Lingually it is converging as well. So I'm just rounding off the line angles. Lingual cusps are sharper, taller, so you can keep them taller, whereas the buccal cusps are a bit blunt when compared to lingual cusp, so you can just more round them off. Okay, let me just clear the wax here. Polish it nicely. So it's important to polish the tooth, otherwise the carving looks average. So once you do that, just make sure you carve your cervical area. So cervical area should be convex. There's a constriction at the neck of the tooth that gives the definition. Just make sure you do the cervical area nicely. Give the nice constriction. Just the cervical area. Just removing some wax at the neck part. Again, while doing that, make sure you don't change the crest of curvature. The crest of curvature should be maintained throughout. So let's have a look at our carving now. So this is the buccal surface. This is the lingual surface. As we can see, there are 5 cusps: mesiobuccal cusp, distobuccal cusp and the distal cusp, mesiolingual cusp and the distolingual cusp. So it is rectangular, yes. Is it converging on the distal side? Yes. Okay. Is the central groove zigzag fashion? Yes, if you notice it is zigzag. So we have 3 cusps: mesiobuccal, distobuccal, distal, separated by 2 grooves. Mesiobuccal groove separating the mesiobuccal to distobuccal, distobuccal groove separating the distobuccal to distal cusp, and then we have 1 groove on the lingual side which is in the center, separating the mesiolingual to distolingual. Okay. So these are the essential features. If you want, we can make the lingual cusp a little sharper because they are known to be a little sharp cusp compared to buccal cusp. So maybe I give a cut, make them a little sharper. As we can see here, so they are a bit sharper. If it's too rounded on the buccal cusps, if you want, you can make a little sharper. But by nature, the buccal cusps are a little blunt. Okay, so we have the carving almost ready now. So yeah, it's nicely rounded, there's no sharp angles. All the essential features of mandibular permanent first mandibular molar. We need to check that. Okay, so let's check this. Okay. Okay, so we have 5 cusps. So like that we have 5 cusps, 3 on the buccal side. I don't know, is it clear? So 3 on the buccal side and 2 on the lingual side, all bounded by the marginal ridge. Flatter buccal cusps, not too flat but relatively flatter. The lingual cusps are a bit sharper. Okay, all these cusps are within the confines of the marginal ridge, mesial marginal ridge and the distal marginal ridge. So these are the essential features. The crown length should not be too much. Make sure you don't take more than 9 millimeters. It should be within 9. That's the maximum. And it should be wider mesiodistally. I repeat, wider mesiodistally than labiolingually. The opposite of that was true for maxillary molars. And all 5 functional cusps are on the occlusal surface, whereas for maxillary molar we had 1 cusp on the mesiolingual cusp called crest of Carabelli. So we can clearly see all 5 cusps here: mesiobuccal, distobuccal, distal, mesiolingual and distolingual. Okay, see from the proximal side you can see the marginal ridges, and this is from this side. Okay, so make sure you carve all these essential features of carving a mandibular permanent molar. Okay, so follow the model, make sure you try to carve all these features. The central groove should be in a zigzag fashion, and yes, it is indeed in a zigzag fashion. If you keenly notice, the central groove is indeed in a zigzag fashion. Okay, so follow all these steps and let's try to finish off. Thank you.